believe it's 2 MP5s, 2 G36 rifles. G36 is essentially something like a AR-15 or M16, right? It's a German composite rifle, pretty modern stuff, all things considered. It's not part of, I believe, the SSA's arsenal. That is to say, these are not weapons that were brought in, that were SSA weapons, part of the SSA's armory that he brought in. So I'm not entirely sure if it's police or defense force weapons. Part of the report might have spoke to weapons that were confiscated from a defunct unit, but the paper trail on it is not exactly, concrete. And so he's bringing back the type of weapons that no private citizen should have. And one would wonder, what does a prophetic advisor need to do with 2 submachine guns and 2 5.56 millimeter assault rifles, right? But like I said, he's gone into hiding. He's fearful for his life, because what came out this morning is that there is a unit called the Research and Analytical Unit, which reports only to the Special Branch, which apparently has taken up part of the role of communication intercepts and the like, which may or may not be legal, because one anonymous source is basically saying the SSA is supposed to have checks and balances, and here comes, and control over communication intercepts and the like, and here comes this special branch unit that does not have supposedly the oversights or the mechanisms of controls that the SSA has, and is doing tasks that the SSA has sole responsibility for, right? And now it's believed that this unit potentially might have been one of the key sources of information to cause the police and the Prime Minister and the National Security Council to move the way it has with the SSA. The problem is, and I'll go back, one of the sources are saying what has been done now is the RAU has become the unit through the TTPS for access for intercepts. They have, when an external agency outside the SSA has such equipment to use without being monitored and recorded as to whose devices were being intercepted, then such stringent measures would not be available. The equipment then abused for wrong purposes, hence allowing the opportunity for this unit to be used politically. Let me just one more thing to point out. Research and Analytical Unit. That's the name. It reminds me of a clandestine unit used in Vietnam called the Studies and Observation Group. See how these names sound so benign? Except the Studies and Observation Group was essentially a black bag unit that did all kinds of things in North Vietnam, because legally the American military could not operate outside of South Vietnam. So when I see this benign name, right, and we already have allegations of a kill squad or a death squad, and then this might have been the unit that apparently is formed in secret to investigate the potential of a death squad. I don't even know who approved of it. Apparently a senior minister did, right? That's all they could say. I have now reached the point where this entire fiasco bothers me, because the Prime Minister's comment is, I will not speak about national security matters.
What is most interesting to me is that when I read the entire story and I start analyzing it bit by bit, first off, it reminds me of the FBI and the CIA, to quote American interest in that sense, because it seems as though the RAU is the CIA that was created to really keep an eye on the SSC in the form of the FBI. So you get where I'm going with respect to that. Then you mentioned Pastor Brown having to return high-powered weaponry.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah, 4.
Oh, with silencers, by the way. And with silencers.
And talk about a pastor who's ready to spray and pray.
What does an intelligence what does an SRP attached to an intelligence unit, signals intelligence, need 4 automatic weapons with silencers?
But anyway, what is intriguing is that the source, the anonymous source to the a news agency that has carried this, is saying that what is happening now is that the RAU is slowly becoming an agency upon itself. Now, this Research and Analytical Unit reports only to the special branch of the TTPS and falls under the remit of the Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines. It's headed by Corporal Brent Clement. And the thing is, all this is now coming to light, and it shows the issues associated with national security and how there's a mess internally as well. But what bugged me the most is the Prime Minister's commentary. I credited the Prime Minister, was it last week, for taking decisive action and dealing with this issue. But he went on to state that he's not going to speak about matters of national security. So it was a bit of a contradiction, because he says that he does not discuss matters of national security with the media, but wasn't it last week or the week before, he, at a sword-turning ceremony, Dr. Rowley alluded to the SSA having strong criminal elements and ties. And I'll quote for you. He says, "As I speak to you now, the problem has multiplied because for the last 2 weeks we have been dealing with the state's contribution to that problem, where the state authority in the position of trust has broken down. And the calypso that we listened to, who's going to guard the guards, became the most pertinent question in Trinbago because the state agencies has become one with the criminal agencies." So he was coming out and he was making these statements. And then all of a sudden, he no longer wants to comment on matters of national security to the media. But then he goes on to say that this unit under the special branch does not report to him. He says he's aware. He's aware that there is a unit within the CTPS that does research and analysis, but he doesn't recall its name. It's a research and analytical unit. He says it does not report to the Prime Minister nor to the line minister. He didn't say Fitzgerald Hines, he just said the line minister.
Yeah.
And then, but it's interesting. The story itself suggests that the research and analytical unit, who reports to the special branch, is under the remit of the Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines. So what is really going on here? Is it that the Prime Minister was not aware of the unit and genuinely doesn't know how to comment? Or is it that now we're seeing instances of pieces of information in regards to national security and the mess that is taking place internally that has laid under the carpet for years, now coming to light, that it may be harming or hampering individuals that need certain protection, or should I say political protection?
Here's the thing. So far, the anonymous sources, I believe, have not said anything that did not eventually come out to be true in some way, shape, or form. They pointed to the murders that needed to be looked into, and they are looking into those very same murders. They pointed to the fact that there seemed to have been criminal activity going on within the SSA, or something that was in bad faith, right, with regards to the duty towards the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And the Prime Minister was the one who used the direct language of or alluded to criminal activity. Let me just say direct language, right? So when you have a research and analysis group, what does that imply? It does not imply communication intercepts or investigative work. It implies potentially developing new technologies or looking into new technologies and then providing analysis, but not necessarily the data collection of it. The fact that, let's not forget, not only was he willing to speak about national security matters by implying Gary Griffith and the FUL situation to be so horrible, so bad, so whatever, blah, 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 right? He was free to talk about that until a court told him he couldn't use parliamentary privilege to talk about it, and all of a sudden he had to pump the brakes because apparently there's not enough there for him to speak about it publicly in an open forum without parliamentary protection, right? But the point is, he got involved in that. And apparently the National Security Council got involved with the SSA. So how is it that there's a research and analysis group, right? He doesn't know what it does. He doesn't know who they are. This is not a country of 100 million people. We're 1.5. Our police service is about 10,000 or less. Our defense force might be 20,000, give or take. I don't know what the actual figures are, right? Right? But, I mean, the police force definitely is 10,000 or less. You don't know who they are? For special branch, the same special branch that's supposed to be protecting you. You don't know what an arm of special branch does. What? You don't know who the people are that potentially are telling you there's something wrong with the SSA. So you act on information that you have no idea where it came from. You have no idea how to verify and trust the source of this information. You just did it.
Why are you assuming that they do not know?
Well, no. I am asking questions based on his statements, right, to show where his statements are less than sufficient, are beyond mediocre, and quite frankly undermine any trust or confidence that we would have in the head of the National Security Council.
My issue is, and I'm questioning now exactly, is there or was there any direct involvement between the Minister of National Security, the Prime Minister, or any part of the National Security Council with respect to the hirings that are taking place within this unit? You have 12 people, as you said, as you mentioned, were dismissed, but no charges, as far as we're aware, were brought against them. So they've been dismissed whilst under investigation. That's two completely different things. As you mentioned, you'd hope they would get it correctly. And that's the issue right there. Individuals have been dismissed. No charges have been brought against them as yet. And we don't know the status as to where the investigation is, what exactly is taking place there. Then, we're learning this morning about this unit within the special branch. And from what I understand, the gentleman who actually heads this unit, who is Corporal Clement, let me just get his correct name here. Yes, Corporal Brent Clement, from what we're learning as well, actually has issues with Corporal Best, formerly of the SSA.
No,
so there
were
issues there as well.
That's the rivalry, because Clement is basically it's like if the CIA started to investigate crimes internally, the FBI would basically say, no, that's wrong, you can't do that.
I understand that.
Right.
But this is what I'm saying. As much as I understand why you're getting upset and getting worked up, and I too would, but the problem is this is not an issue that is unfamiliar to us. There are more and more question marks surrounding the involvement of the National Security Council, more and more question marks surrounding the hiring of these individuals, more and more question marks surrounding the investigations that are taking place, and more question marks surrounding whether or not these units, which are supposed to be integral with respect to national security, have been vetted at all. And it seems as though they're no to all of these questions I'm asking this morning. And what intrigues me the most is that we've called on the Prime Minister, who's the head of the National Security Council, to bring answers. But what about the Minister of National Security? He said he has nothing useful to add. But the media is not doing a job in getting more. And as far as I'm concerned, those who are in opposition, and it doesn't necessarily have to be those on the opposing bench, but there are others out there who are known as activists, who hold other roles. Nobody is doing enough to question the Minister of National Security, the line minister, over these appointments, over these issues.
Okay, save the media part for later, because we could delve into that deeper. But with regards to the minister himself, I understand that. But to be honest, there's a part of me that doesn't care to question the Minister of National Security, because I literally don't want to waste my time, because past behavior, as Karen always says, is a good indicator of future behavior.
But then if that is the case, Sean,
no.
Hold on. If you're saying you don't want to question him because you don't want to waste your time, look, again, I get that. I get frustrated as well, but at the same time, you might as well use that argument in questioning the Minister of Finance. You might as well use that argument in questioning the Prime Minister. You might as well use that argument for most of them. The point I'm trying to make is...
to be fair...
The point I'm trying to make is, are you going to get a satisfactory response? Are you going to get any information at all?
Here's the thing. You might not get a satisfactory response, but you do get information sometimes when you speak to other ministers. From the Minister of National Security, 99 times out of 100, you get literally nothing. Because like you said it yourself, he said he has nothing to add.
And I get that. But that does not mean that he should be left off the hook.
Right. No. I didn't say that he should be, left off the hook. Because the fact of the matter is, again, the government has done nothing to say, these are our sources, don't know what we're talking about. What they said so far has proven to be true. We will go on that assumption until proven otherwise, with the understanding that there is a potential, and a very real one, that what they're saying might not be true and might be proven to not be true. Both of those factors matter, right?
By who?
Hold on. The point is, it was said that the RAU, that a senior government minister, the term was very senior government minister. So we know it ain't no backbencher that now get elected to MP for the first time. Not no minister in the ministry of something else happening to do national security. A very senior government minister insisted that the SSA gives the RAU the ability to do interception, which again, the source brings up if it might be the same source or might be a different source, brings up if the equipment is then abused for the wrong purposes, it will allow for the opportunity for this unit to be used politically. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is trying to say, oh no, I am not involved in this, and the Minister of National Security is not involved in this. And that could mean one of two things. One, he is lying out of his teeth, or two, he literally has, to some extent, lost control of the situation, right? Because if somebody else, if a different minister than those two set it up so they will have some amount of plausible deniability, he's still aware enough for me to say that there's the potential of him lying out of his teeth.
I will never sit on this platform and say that this gentleman is lying out of his teeth.
I didn't say it was.
I will.
I didn't say it was. I said
one
it's
of
the
two options.
possibility.
One of two options. And as much as it raises question marks, I cannot sit on this platform and say that. Because as far as I'm concerned, and you may disagree with me and you may feel frustrated with me, because of the investigations taking place and the potential for what may come out of it. Look, put it this way.
Right.
Hold on.
So,
put it this way. I don't have the greatest of confidence in any police investigation to begin with. Right? Two, I don't even know who is leading these investigations and whoever's leading these investigations, what links they have to whoever.
Did you hear about what happened to one of the murder cases? Because of you made that point. They thought the person who owned the land, they wanted to question him for information with regards to the two people that died near what is now known as the church property. The owner of the property, they blanked out the name, is said to be connected to the SSA. The investigators could not actually track down the owner, who is connected to the SSA, to have an interview, and that's why the case went cold. They could not get someone connected to the SSA. They couldn't track down someone connected to the SSA.
I have no confidence in any police investigation. But the reason why I will not say that somebody is lying out of their teeth is because, quite frankly, at this point in time, I have so many question marks, very little answers to even go. I can say that there's probably been some misleading in some form or fashion. But apart from that, I'm going back to the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security, and I am questioning who is being protected. Who is being protected? Which one of them? Is it both? Is it either? That is the most important thing in this entire issue, because the Prime Minister, again, I said last week, well done for taking decisive action. But at the same time, while making those comments last week, bear in mind that I also said it is most intriguing that he has used once more the title and position as head of the National Security Council to act conveniently. And that is why I'm saying at this point in time, I get why you're frustrated. It seems as though it's a cycle all over again. We face this multiple times with respect, especially to the national security apparatus. Who is being protected?
Not to this extent. Here's the thing. That's why I gave two scenarios, because generally the extreme one is most likely not true, despite the fact that it is very difficult to look at a situation where the Prime Minister is saying, you know, I don't know this unit, I don't know the people, blah, 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 neither does the minister, and yet we're going to go and potentially, you know, take a heavy-handed approach to the SSA. It's very hard to believe, but to be fair, the truth is probably not to that extent that he's lying out of his teeth. The point is you put it there to emphasize the point where what is the alternative? The alternative is a unit that he does not know anything of, that potentially is operating on the fringes of legality, right, with potentially no oversight, is somehow the secret weapon to deal with what was going on in the SSA.
So it ties back to the comments from the Minister of National Security, when he's come out and he says that all state agencies are working to ensure that crime is controlled. It comes back to the comments from the Prime Minister saying that we give the assurance that the state is doing everything in their power. But again, Sean, it seems as though no one has control with what's happening internally, and nobody is actually resolving this issue with integrity. And I say with integrity because at this point in time, we can only base our opinions and what we're projecting to the public based off of what is being reported. Further to that, How long has this been taking place? How many years has this been taking place? How long has Fitzgerald Hines been Minister of National Security? How long has the Prime Minister been the head of the National Security Council? All of these things are coming out now.
Look at what is being asked of us to believe in. We are being asked to believe that the SSA, the unit with legal authority, with full oversight and checks and balances, somehow got undermined by a pastor and his church, right? And we're supposed to then see, oh, look what this bad thing here happened to the unit that had oversight. And we're now supposed to not really question about a unit that potentially has no oversight. That's all I want to point out. And that's why the Prime Minister cannot conveniently now use the excuse, I don't speak on national security matters, unless I need to withdraw a merit list to try to prevent Guy Griffith from being sent on the list to Parliament. Right?
Hold on. Let's first of all, we need to stop going back to this issue with Guy Griffith, right? We need to stop doing that, right? But I agree it's an issue, and I agree to stay.
No, only because the National Security Council head used the fact that he was the head of the National Security Council to justify his decisions. So you can't run away from that now.
Which we are aware of. I get that. But let's not keep going back to the issue of Guy Griffith and Police Commissioner, because we're going to get a press release from Guy Griffith later, which at this point really is unnecessary, about when he was Commissioner of Police. I get it. I understand that. I'm moving on from that now, because we have a serious issue at hand. We have a relatively new Commissioner of Police. All right? And as far as I'm concerned, Sean, as far as I'm concerned,
well,
I am a fool if I'm going to act surprised. I am the fool if I am going to act surprised. But I'm not going to be a fool by just simply saying, you know what, because we've gotten so accustomed to this, let's leave it. No. Because of what we're seeing taking place with the national security apparatus and the erosion, as far as I'm concerned, of law and order, and the question marks surrounding our policing to begin with, I feel that there's a lot more to this. Not only that we know, but there's a lot more to come out. And as far as I'm concerned, this thing with this pastor being hired or whatnot, again...
But that's a tip.
That's just a tip.
That's just a tip.
You know, of
the iceberg.
The Social Welfare Association of the TGB has made arguments. We don't need any more vetted units. We already have vetted units and whatnot.
Yeah, but the vetted units, we have a lot.
Everything just falling apart, boy. Everything.
Hey, there's a reason.
We can't get anything right.
I'm telling you, it's not that the government wants vetted units, you know. I'm telling you, it's the foreign authorities that want us to have better vetted units. But listen, just to put a bow on this, but I actually want to get into at least one more story with the Commissioner. Karen said last week she was scared, and you know what? I think this report now gives her fears credence. And let's not forget to give the government the benefit of the doubt. Where's the success? Have they succeeded in reducing the murder rate? Nope, they haven't succeeded really in reducing the murder rate. How about the detection rate? Nope, they didn't do that. So if they can't do that, do they succeed in interdicting the guns or drugs? Nope, no success there. Have they secured the borders? Borders are open.
So what's the point of the SSC special branch?
What about anybody that is higher than a street level thug? Have they arrested anybody with any weight in the criminal empire of this country? Nope, haven't happened under their watch, right? So many successes that I could just count them with one fist, because not one finger gets to be raised. But meanwhile, next story when I get into, I
actually agree with the Commissioner of Police. This time, boy, we really need to pray for the sake of our sanity.
Well, here's the thing. Apparently, a High Court judge disagreed with the Commissioner of Police, because in a FUL, in the second story, an FUL application lawsuit, right? A businessman, I believe, 3-year delay in getting his FUL. The judge basically said, Commissioner, you do not get to use the excuse that I am too busy, right, to not carry out what the judge termed as a core function of your job. It would be because the commissioner said it's unfathomable to expect her to spend her time deciding outstanding FUL applications. The judge said it's simply outrageous that the commissioner will elect to adopt I have plenty work to do defense, right? And went on to say, right, the cop-out stance does not instill any confidence as to the office holder's capacity or capability to discharge the required statutory obligations, right? And hold on, I want to get the full. Basically, at some point, they basically called into the competence right, of the police commissioner herself, right, because she also tried to use the COVID-19 pandemic as a crutch. And ironically, I know you want to put Guy Griffith to bed, but this is literally the FEL situation has come to the forefront in this case. And he has pointed out, right, and to some extent, I think this case at least makes me want to re-examine. I don't necessarily think he's off the hook, but we don't know what he's accused of, right, because they can't actually level any accusations against him. But he's pointed out the same. Gary Griffith has been, in one of the reports has said, basically his efforts, you know, this is why he was doing what he's doing to try to push firearm users licenses out there.
To the High Court Judge, Justice Frank C. Prasad, and I quote from him, he says, incompetence or restricted ability
there we go.
Cannot and will not be used by this court as a ground of justification when there is a delay in the discharge of duty imposed by statute. As far as I'm concerned, earlier with Christopher cannot bring any excuses to the table, especially in reflective of this issue. And the reason why I'm saying that is because earlier with Christopher's job is to literally sign off on the application once all vetting processes have been adhered to and approved. Once the testing, whether it be psychological, whether it be competency, whether it be knowledge of laws, whatever the process may be, that is not earlier with Christopher's job to literally sit down and go through the entire process, the entire application. There are members within the TTPS to do so. Once it is approved and all checks and balances have been accounted for, and they're saying this individual has passed this test, this individual has done so and so, it's quite literally for her to look at it and sign off on it. That's basically it. That's all she has to do. Now, I'm not saying that I want earlier with Christopher to do a shady job and say, you know what, me care, sign off on this, that. No, I'm not saying that. But I get that your job is busy. That's no excuse because this is part of your responsibilities. When you became Commissioner of Police, did you not realize that all of this falls under your remit? So this is the issue with the FUL units as well. How many more excuses are going to be made, not just for the FUL units, but overall for the lack of policing within the TTPS, and how many more excuses earlier with Christopher going to go? Because as far as I'm concerned, yes, I know her job is difficult, you know, but you're in that position, you accepted the appointment, and I'm hoping you didn't accept it just because it makes for good retirement benefits. As far as I'm concerned, you accepting this is putting your foot forward and saying, I am capable of doing this job and I am going to do it. Now that we're making all these excuses, go back from the GSC that was held a couple months ago to what we're seeing now in terms of, well, you know, it's COVID and I have plenty to do and whatnot. Lady, if you are incapable of doing your job as Commissioner of Police, then I would humbly suggest that you enjoy your retirement.
But plenty of what? Thanks to her meticulous and professional and superb efforts, we have a 16% detection rate. It rose by 3 last year with murders and a 9% detection rate so far in murders this year, right? And at the end of the day, it's not as though she doesn't know that murders are one of the key metrics that the public judges her by. More importantly, if we take their claims to be true, that other high-end crimes, violent crimes, right, serious crimes are dropping, then the only thing left is the murder rate. But you can't say about that. Right? So where are the results for all of this work that you're so busy about and all of these plans that are apparently so brilliant? That's what gets me in all of this. And at the end of the day, what did the government revealed only one aspect with regards to the FUL situation, the sheer amount of bullets and guns that the former commissioner brought in. And it seems to me that whether directly or indirectly, the current commissioner either was told not to or did not want to touch that with a 10-foot pole because politically, right, she just saw her predecessor get the axe for doing what she's not doing.
As far as I'm concerned, there are systemic issues within the TTPS of which we are seeing, of which we are
in national security.
Exactly. I get that. So I know that there are issues and a lot has to be sorted out. I know crime is not going to change overnight, but nothing has been done to even inspire some level of confidence. But apart from that, if we are aware that there are systemic issues, Earl Edward Christopher should do her best not to contribute or add to these issues, you know. And by her coming out and making silly excuses, it's a reflection of where the TTPS is at when it comes to policing.
Let's not forget, she had enough time to go to a party, some Easter event, when she was now appointed, and gave herself an excellent grade while she was in her wonderful...
What's wrong with doing to find a balance? But my point is that she can't find a balance.
That's the point. Thank you, right? And I will say this. You don't have to agree with this or not. But to me, it's not just police, it's national security, the entire National Security Council. I will hazard a guess that if we think the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security are bad at those specific jobs, I would hazard a guess that the rest of the National Security Council, the heads of service, are even worse.
And put it this way,
at their jobs.
The Minister
Think
of
about
National
that.
Security stepped in Parliament last week in response to questions from the opposition, and he basically said, let's not politicize what took place over the previous weekend in response to the 6 murders and the 9 people being shot, right? He said, let's not politicize this issue. Let's not politicize crime. Let's not politicize violence. Really? Doesn't that sound like a gentleman changing his tune all of a sudden?
Yeah.
So it seems as though...
Because he has nothing of value to say.
When you don't know what to do or you don't know what to say, I'll start to sing.
How could we not be concerned about people dying? Anyway, I want to close out the hour. I told you there was an opinion piece, Keaton, on journalism in this country, and I think it is more important now because you were starting to bring up that with regards to how politicians are potentially getting away with some of this ridiculousness, and I think at this point we've reached a new low. We've hit a new low with regards to the state of crime in the country and how it's being managed. Well, the Newsday has a column by Mark Lindesay.
Yes, Mark Lindesay.
Lindesay, right? Of which he was writing about another journalist's thesis, doctoral thesis, about the subject of journalism culture in TNT. And some of the things, now, they give kudos to the staff of the various media houses that allowed access and transparency. But what came out of it is basically a combination of things that we have either disliked about the media industry, the news industry in Trinidad, criticisms that we've had before, but also to some extent, it also gives credence to some of our worst fears with regards to some of the political or economic pressure that is pushing down, right, the whole situation. Because at the end of the day, media is supposed to be the fourth estate, right? And I have an illustration to emphasize this point that I like for the population to see there, if you could put it up. Right? Now, if you could put it up in full to start off, so that they could fully read it there. Right? So you have the judicial, executive, legislature. We already don't have a separation of the legislature and the executive for that checks and balance. But then the fourth column there is the media. And one of the things that has come out, right, one of the, I guess, the conclusions, right, that has come out is the fact that the authors of the thesis basically said that there's the most compelling consequence is a steady deterioration in the authority and presence of formal journalism in the day-to-day lives of citizens. Mm-hmm. Right? And then now that basically means that we don't have that fourth estate to be that check. Now, to some extent, I think with this SSA story, we are actually getting some degree of investigative journalism. But a lot of what comes out is the fact that, and we've talked about this before, a lot of journalism in this country is basically glorified stenographs and transcriptionists, where they just report on what's said, and they don't do any follow-up, and they don't do any research, and they don't give any context. And they even admitted that. And this is more or less where we're at. Our news industry, in many ways, is in its infancy. And I don't know, to some extent, maybe this is why we, in my opinion, have reached a new low with regards to our democracy.
My issue with respect to journalism here in TNT, and this criticism goes for you and for me. This criticism is not just for other media houses, because as far as I'm concerned, we have a responsibility as well, right? We fall under this remit. And at times, we ourselves we haven't done our jobs, we haven't executed our responsibilities as best as possible. For me, sometimes when you go into a conversation, many of us aren't prepared. We don't even bother to educate ourselves. The thing is, we're trying to educate the public. And at times, we're not even educated on an issue. And that has happened. Me personally, I can tell you, that's happened to me many a times where on air, I'm like, I don't even understand what's taking place here. I don't think I'm in a position to comment. Beyond that, at the same time, apart from not doing education or research, I don't think journalists here in TNT go in depth. I don't even think when it comes to reporting, they follow up. Because every Sunday, newspapers carry investigative pieces or breaking stories. But there is no follow-up. There's just like, you know what, let's put this in the Sunday newspaper. It's going to sell. Next week, we'll have a different story. There's no follow-up on these investigations. And that's why I say investigative journalism here in TNT is one story, that's it, undone. And there's no context.
Well, that's not entirely true, but it's mostly true.
There is no context.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, if we're seeing something taking place now, and that's happening now, if it could be linked to an instance in the past where this has already happened, that we have experience with this taking place, this is the outcome of what happened, how is it we've got to this point? I have question marks surrounding that as well. And that is where educating the public, this is where the role of the media comes into play. This is where accountability is very important. So then you have to wonder, now in Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister, I think, was it earlier this year, he says that the media in Trinidad and Tobago has never been policed by the government. There's always been free media. That's not in verbatim, that's just basically essentially the message he was portraying. What influences a newsroom now? What really influences a newsroom now? What is it that says that this is what a newsroom is going to carry, this is what we're going to focus on, this is what we're going to do? Is it their role as a fourth estate? Or is it survival in other circumstances?
So the author of the thesis speaks to that directly. There's two influences that's bad.
The author said the thesis. Yeah.
One is the influence of ownership by conglomerates on business interests, right? Fine. But the other major influence is the chilling effect of laws that have the potential to criminalize legitimate news and investigative reporting. Legacy legislation, new laws, laws which remain partially proclaimed, including Data Protection, Cybercrime, Libel and Defamation Act, Sedition Act, Proceeds of Crime Act, etc., etc. How these things could be applied, right? The chilling effect on journalism was summarized by one journalist. This is in Mark Lindesay's report. When you're just reporting everyday stuff as a transcriptionist, the only way that you could fall short is you may defame someone by omission when you don't get a response. I think, and I'm interpreting that in part to say, if we don't drive outside the lines, we're safe.
There is no specifications that exist as far as...
color outside the lines.
There's no specifications as far as I'm aware that exist in TNT as per exactly whom a journalist is, what qualifies you to be a journalist.
Yes.
So they have individuals who are walking into newsrooms and being referred to or calling themselves journalists. And that could be also frustrating to editors, because that's the whole thing about it. You come, you report. There's no in-depth investigation. And I get that resources are not what they used to be, but at the same time, the level of commitment to being a journalist in Trinidad and Tobago is fading and fading very quickly. And as far as I'm concerned, if this is what we refer to as journalism, where it's just simply reporting to the media and ensure that we have enough articles to actually see that we have a newspaper printed tomorrow, or that we could carry a newscast in the night for an hour, if that is what we're coming to, come on, man. Accountability on all sides.
Here's the thing. I think there are journalists who are trying, but what happens then is they lose access. They lose access for a while, and things are forced to settle down, and we are forced to forget.
And that is
right.
And that's a good
Hence,
point.
the Minister of National Security, he more or less, I mean, has he ever taken an interview request from us?
That is a, well...
he's directly told me that he always makes himself available to the media, and then proceeded to not take my calls.
Because I will tell you that we put in a request for the Minister of National Security on AM Prime. We contacted him, we spoke to him on the phone, right? He says, contact me again in so-and-so time. Contact him again, gave us a number for somebody whom to contact to set up, because need to get a schedule. Nothing with respect to a follow-up on that stance. The Minister of Finance says, I'll only come on your program if you come to my press conferences. right? That's what the Minister of Finance says, but the Minister of Finance doesn't take any interviews from media houses. Then, apart from that, I'll go back to the infamous one of the opposition leader.
Yeah. They're not exempt from this.
And you know why the opposition leader can't do an interview? Because she simply cannot wake up on a morning to do an interview. That's not the excuse I was giving, you know. That's just simply my opinion.
Oh,
that is what I assume it to be.
I thought you were told that directly.
No. I was never told that directly.
Okay.
Because according to Damian Lyder, who is an opposition senator, and according to Dr. Kirk Mayhew, the opposition leader has always made herself available to the media.
She's done what, one interview in the last 3 years that we know
She's
of?
always made herself available to the media. According to Dr. Kirk Mayhew and Damian Lyder as well, they said, no other prime minister has ever made themselves available to the media for interviews as Kamala Prasad-Biswas has done. And I'm like, Kamala Prasad-Biswas was prime minister how long ago? How long is she now opposition leader? I can't get an interview with her. I even offered. I said, listen, you know what? Fine, if you can't make it at a time, make it at a later time and date at your convenience, right? Just let us know. We could even pre-record the interview. Nothing with respect to a follow-up on that. But I know why, so I'm not really beating up about it. My whole point is that I get that it could be frustrating for journalists as well. I get that there may be journalists out there, their jobs are by no means easy. I have met journalists who have gotten deep into some stories and literally were then cut out, were literally annexed, not only from covering the story, but from covering that, if it's a ministry, if it's a minister, if it's something on a whole. Quite literally have just been annexed from that taking place. So I know that the job is not easy. I get that it's very difficult. But at the same time, that's where the rise of independent media houses have come to play. And even independent media houses such as ourselves could do a lot better. Right? There's some independent media houses out there, and I'm not going to call names. They say they're independent, they're not financed by so-and-so, they're not this and that. We could donate to them to keep them going. And boy, you could fool me. Because it just seems as though it's politically motivated all the time.
A couple things to mention. First of all, also what plays into this, we know that a lot of public servants have gag orders. Teachers are not allowed to speak, just period. Doctors are not allowed to speak. Obviously, police officers, only media ambassadors can't speak. And that's one thing about the TTP. I'll say this about the TTPS. Their corporate communication plan probably, you might not think it's great. It's literally the best thing I've seen with regards to trying to communicate to the public. And that includes politicians whose 50% of their job is supposed to be to communicate to the public. Now, with regards to journalists, I think what we need to make sure, Keita's not asking, or we should not ask for perfection, right? We're not going to be perfect. He's pointed out the fact, we're not perfect. But we all should be trying, right? We all should be trying. And if we don't get access, we don't get access. This SSA story is not coming from official sources. It's coming from anonymous sources who just happen to seem to be right more often than not, right? But context matters, and this is one of the things that I've always lamented. It's not just about what happened in a previous time that was in a big story, but also, okay, like when we had, the $2 million flag, did anyone actually go and do any research with regards to the actual cost of these things independently so that we could have context? Is this a scandal or is it not a scandal? No, we just looked at the figure and said, ooh, scandal, because it seemed high. It seems high, it seems bad, it seems things are going wrong.
So there was this is my final point. There was an article on the Trinidad and Tobago Express about 3 weeks to a month ago from DART, the Dead Animal Removal Unit. Right? Article was pretty good.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I'm brushing over that.
Yeah. It really pointed out to what's happening there, what's taking place. There's been no follow-up since.
Yeah.
There's been no follow-up since. And that's a very important thing as far as I'm concerned.
I hate to say this, but...
because the roads are covered in carcasses.
I hate to say this, but to some extent, for the purposes of Talking Point, I did not think that there was anything there for me to say, because whatever points I would make on that story could be made on a story that would be more pressing to people. And perhaps that's where one of many areas that I fell short. But we'll end this conversation here, because we do want to give you a chance to open the phone lines. There are some other stuff in the daily review, but we could just save that for tomorrow, depending. The SSA story compounded upon itself. I just wanted to point out, to give credit where credit is due, Mark Linsley. He's the editor of TechNewsTT.com, and his article in Newsday directs for an expanded version. You could visit that website to get an expanded expanded version of his column. I think it's a very important read for everyone in TNT to try to start to understand the importance of media in this country, and just one more area that we need to try to, I don't know, protect, save before it falls through. And then we just start look around and ask, well, how did we get to this point? But anyway, let's take a break. When we come back, we open the full line. Stay tuned.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Sarah Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Pipara mud volcano currently slowed down in activity. PSA president criticizes government's disregard for worker representation amidst WASA restructuring. Tourism Minister rejects opposition's attempt to divert attention from ICNTT matters, and internationally, Stephen Marley given the key to the city of Wilmington, Delaware. Now for the details. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management has reported a temporary slowdown in activity at the Pipara mud volcano following weekend monitoring. In a statement released on Sunday, the ODPM highlighted a noticeable decrease in both the noise level and the discharge of mud and gas from the volcano. The volcano's dome shows no significant new fissures or widening, as confirmed by observations from both monitoring equipment and discussions with residents in the area, the statement explained. Access to the vicinity remains restricted as the volcano continues to exhibit signs of activity. Leroy Batiste, president of the Public Services Association, has expressed the union's ongoing dispute with the government regarding what they perceive as a lack of consideration for worker representation. In an interview, Batiste highlighted the long-standing issue of the restructuring of Water and Sewerage Authority, which has been a topic of public discussion for some time. Batiste emphasized that there have been extensive discussions between the union and the authorities regarding this matter. He stressed that the primary concern of the union is to ensure that workers' interests are adequately represented, as the restructuring decision directly affects their lives and livelihoods. The trade union leader criticized what he described as a dismissive attitude of the authorities towards the union's concern. Culture and Arts Minister Randall Mitchell has firmly stated his refusal to be drawn into what he perceives as a ploy by opposition Senator Wade Mark to divert public attention away from internal issues within the United National Congress. In a news conference held at the UNC's headquarters in Chaguanas on Sunday, Mark raised questions regarding Mitchell's potential involvement with a company that owns a building in Port of Spain, currently being leased by Pan Trambago for office space. In response to these queries, Mitchell dismissed Mark's assertions as an attempt to deflect focus from the ongoing challenges faced by the UNC. He reiterated that he has already publicly addressed his involvement as a 50% shareholder in Dare Street Limited, the entity that owns the property located at 55 Dundonald Street, Port of Spain. On Wednesday, Wilmington's Mayor Mike Pizzacchi honored Stephen with the key to the city in a ceremony at the One Love Park, attended by fans and some of the Marley family members. Wilmington is the first place in the U.S. where Bob Marley lived with his mother, Cedella Malcolm Booker, who immigrated from Jamaica to Delaware in 1962. Well, that's it to News on the Hour on WESN. I am Sarah Ali. Thank you for watching.
Imagine a world where arguments don't exist. CICR is a full-service conflict resolution company that offers mediation training and workshops for all. In 2024, our 40-hour workshops are back, giving you all the tools you need to become a certified mediator in Trinidad and Tobago. Want to know more? Call us at 768-6778 or visit our website. Let's work together to make the world a better place.
Welcome back to Talk About, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, now is the time we open the phone lines. We want to hear from you, the viewer. You could have your say. I know a lot of people are probably on vacation, so they might be too busy, you know, living it up. And I understand that. I myself have family in Keaton that you know, I'm grateful to be able to spend time with, because, of course, during COVID, there was none of that, but I haven't seen for a long time, even outside of COVID.
I went on vacation too. I actually look forward to the long weekend. So get some rest and relaxation.
Oh, we get a long weekend?
Well, we're supposed to.
I don't keep track of these things,
we actually have no live shows on Friday and Monday.
This is the unfortunate reality.
We don't get to stop working. We just don't get a live show on Friday.
This is the unfortunate reality, though, of holiday times. A lot of important things are happening right now, and I do wonder if enough of the country is even taking it on. We have our first caller, however, from Digger Martin. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Good morning, Mr. Shah, Mr. Small.
Morning.
Greetings.
Three quick issues. The Commissioner of Police has finally admitted she's overwhelmed with the job, and that is in an affidavit in the court. So I'm hoping that honesty and integrity will prevail, and she would basically hand in a resignation, or the Police Service Commission should make an intervention. I mean to say, she said that she was not basically, in respect to the meritocracy list, which we call the merit list, the previous one high on the list. She was, as they say, way down, but somehow or the other, somebody maneuver, and she ended up at the top, and now we're seeing what... And that is honesty. At least she's honest to say she's overwhelmed. And if we have to give her some stripes, we will give her 3 stripes for that. But she has to show integrity now and hand in a resignation. Another quick point. SSA, I like to go down that topic, and I'm going to plot some dots, and we could figure out where I'm going. The gentleman who is the camera consultant, apparently he was the administrator of the system, right? And we all know the kind of leverage the administrator has. If you want to go into my system, hey fellas, and if they're functioning properly, every day they go change the password and the criteria, so you had to go to him. But the more critical thing, he had camera system in a lot of ministers' areas, a lot of high government official areas, and a lot of people connected to national security. Let's go back to a former AG, and this is where it's frightening. The Nelson Gate indemnity suit for 100 million. That indemnity was never done in the AG office. All right? And we have to ask about 3 questions. Who, whom, where, and why? And if this person has leverage on all that information, it might be conspiracy. But to come and really mash up the SSA list like that is not to the mortar and the pestle, because I am National Security Chairman, and I know everything what's going on, and I'm waiting for a particular incident to mash it up the place. No. Yes, it might be have judicial killing and contract killing, but I believe it's more to the porter. And the other thing is that a new political party going to be formed. The United Vagrant Party. A lot of those people who fighting for election and all kind of thing, who want to go up to St. Joseph, will be political vagrants. Go on, have a nice morning.
Thank you, caller. No, that's an important point with regards to the political commissioner. One of the things I forgot to mention, Keaton, is that ties the 2 stories together, right? In the case of potential political corruption that affects the national security apparatus, who are the backstops? Who are the principal officers that's supposed to help guard the population from that? One is the DPP, and the other is supposed to be the Independent Commissioner of Police.
Yeah.
and she is, and apparently she's overwhelmed with her job that she can't sign some forms, right? That's too much to ask of her. You know, so if anything goes wrong, do we expect her to have a backbone to stand up to the politicians?
And then the DPP's office is underfunded and overwhelmed with cases. I mean, the whole judicial system is in a mess. But anyway,
it's almost like if someone is purposefully and intentionally opening wider holes.
Prime Minister, I know you might
so
not,
that they could...
You might not listen to me. You really might not listen to me. But Prime Minister, might I make a suggestion of the $100 million of which you said will be at the disposal of the Defence Force? Still don't know what's going on there. Still don't know what's the plans with that. Don't know if you just mention it on a political platform. But could you put that $100 million towards the judiciary, please, and especially to the office of the DPP? Just
Wasn't that any budget? Didn't he say that? Didn't they say that any budget? I can't remember. It's been so long, I can't remember when they first said it.
Caller on the line with us from San Fernando. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Keith.
Morning.
Greetings.
You remember when the Prime Minister came back from his trip to the US, and I said to you, Sean, that the Prime Minister was summoned. You don't go and see, you don't call and tell the CIA and the FBI you want to see them. They call you and they summon you. This is the aftermath of what we're seeing with the SSC and all this crap that's happening here. This is the aftermath of the Prime Minister being told what is happening down here. Similarly, when McDonald Jacob said he was told the impact report that came out from the US that said that the arms and ammunition were coming through legal ports, which the police service didn't know. What a mess we're in this country. Now, I want to focus on yesterday's contribution in the debate for the property tax. Independent Senator Timal and Independent Senator Paul Richards. Two excellent contributions. I wish you would go and look at it. Two excellent contributions. Damian Ryder went on and on and on, and I understood he was trying to make a point. They had points of order against him, but he was trying to make a point, and all three people tried to make the same point, where they were saying that the issue is not the reduction in the 2% from the 3 to the 2%. The issue is how you arrive at the annual rental value.
Yes.
I am so appreciative of the professor trying to, which is not normal. For the last several days, he has been calling and trying to explain this situation with the property tax. But the thing is, the state not understanding that a lot of the population are willing to pay the property tax. That's not the issue, no. The issue is how you go about doing the thing. And from the beginning of this finance minister has gone about the implementation of property tax since 2016 as if it was a vendetta against the citizens. That is what he has done. It's like a vendetta against the citizens. And we have to look at these things and say, no. And they now understand, like we are saying, no, this has to change. Something has to change. Whether it is them understanding us or we deciding, just like what they do in the other Caribbean islands, after 2 terms, we get rid of you. And I think that's where we're going. Have a good day, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Colo. You know, the Minister of Finance yesterday, during his contribution to the debate,
I was going to say it if you didn't say it. Say it.
he admitted that the valuation he received for his home was much too high. He said his home was given a monthly rental value of $25,000, which amounts to $9,000 in property tax per year. He said this is it. He says, I do not approve of the figure, but I have no intention of challenging it.
But you heard it would be wrong for him to object for a valuation he considers to be much too high for himself, 50% too high.
That's because the man could afford to pay it given his property portfolio.
But more importantly, this literally, he is proving the questions of the population to be true. And then he went on to say, everyone who has complained about valuations, they appear to be wealthy. That's because everybody who you speak to probably, I could be wrong, but I wonder how many poor people with these questions have access to you to ask you directly or complain to you directly about property tax. I just would like to know.
Completely out of touch, but they haven't rioted as yet. Good morning, caller from Chicago.
Bonus on the line. Morning.
Good day, gentlemen.
A good day to you, sir.
I think your last caller hit it on the nail when he said government have to explain how they're doing this thing and why they're doing it. Right? Because up to now, we have no idea why they went and changed it all. As I pointed out before, they had local government reform. The people asked to give local government to the regional authority, so all the property tax would be in the local government or Warsaw hands or whatnot. Instead, government take it away. The
the ministers and the Prime Minister is not mentioning this. The second point I want to make is that this morning, Rowley gone back on this closing down the refinery and talking about it was losing so much money. Rowley know better because he wrote an article on it in which he pointed out the problem was not with the core refinery, but with the gas to liquid plants and the other one that they brought in here. He didn't, of course, say that the person who come up with that was his blue-eyed boy, Malcolm Jones, and when the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Energy objected to it, this is a fellow they call Andrew Jupiter, who is one of our top petroleum engineers. In fact, he lectures in UWI on petroleum engineering. They transfer him to the Ministry of Works, much important than petroleum engineering. And that gentleman is our problem. We have, and in both parties that do this sort of thing. Any questions?
No caller, but thank you.
But thank you for that. Yes.
Imagine Malcolm Jones was given a national award after.
I mean, listen, and also I think the whole NICON situation is to some extent tied into this whole debacle. And you're right, the Prime Minister, if he had an article to say that and then now he comes and says this, it's quite hypocritical. This topic I was planning to speak on this morning as well, but we ran out of time because, I mean, the SSA and the national security implications are way too bad. We are Sandra on the line. Sorry, my mistake. Sandra Gandhi, good morning.
Follow up. Now, very often we hear you all asking or calling upon the authorities that, you know, we just they didn't return the call or they're unavailable. But when they're available, is it possible for you to say that you are not available? Because they are putting in questions which we could ask whether it's opposition or government. And you made the example of the leader of the opposition or whether it's a government minister. But in the same manner in which they are unavailable to answer a question, they put in questions that you are seeking to ask, and they are unavailable. By all means, demonstrate your importance that we are unavailable too. But like we beg for opportunity to participate in interviewing one of these persons. And so this is why I think that they take advantage of you all. We can just use you at our own advantage. Today we are available because we want to make a point, whether it's government or opposition, whether it is head of the department or not. So that if we had to follow up on a point, as an example, we had an investigation by one of your journalists, Mr., if I may call his name, Mark Bassam, with regards the abuse of power or the abuse of influence with regards credit union notes. The leader, a member of the opposition, Jayanti Lakshmidhyal, followed up with a number of questions with respect to foster comments. Well, it was public knowledge, I can. But nowhere did we ever hear of the invitation or an invitation of the investigation officer, I'm trying to remember his name now, that the Ministry of Finance has, Inspector of Banks and Financial Institutions. Nowhere did we hear an appeal made to that individual to institute some sort of investigation with regards to the operations at a particular credit union. And if you look back in time, some time ago, there was a similar incident of the, in this case, the manager of a credit union, that they were brought to question.
Very quickly, caller, because we have other callers waiting.
So I will just say, there are so many issues, but the fact is I'm still Trinidadian. I am about 70 years old, well, the 70s. And amidst the fact that I had opportunity to leave Trinidad and Tobago, I didn't as a young person, so I ain't going away. I ain't now leaving.
All right, caller, thank you.
The fact is that there are so many issues
which
are left unanswered that we beg you all, in fact you all as or last bastion of hope is the expression, so that to bring some sanity in our society. Thank you very much and have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you for your contribution. I do believe we have another call on the line. Good morning.
Morning, Sean and Keaton.
Good morning.
Program.
Thank you.
And I call because what happened, I'm connected to two properties now, and I got a valuation letter for rental value of 40,000 for the 3-bedroom flat. And then the other property, this other property is a 1-bedroom house, so far, old-fashioned house. and they give me a valuation for 38,000 rental value. So I don't know if, like I will have to go in, because I'm doing some work and I'm adding on a next bedroom to the one-bedroom house. It's not complete, but the point is, how could a one-bedroom house in St. James valuation rental value be $38,000 rental per month? You know, that I'm really confused. And Sean, I want you to, hello, Sean?
Yes.
I want you to, I'm concerned about you, I'm elder and I do have blood pressure, and I want you to take care of yourself. You know, the eyes will get emotional.
Well, did you just say 38,000 per month?
Sean, you just do good work and you just say everything, like you just cover all my points, boy, Sean, boy. When I'm going to call in that thing, you're very good, Keaton, excellent, all you. God bless all you, let somebody else get in. Bye-bye.
Thank you, caller.
Hold on the line, that's from Cascade. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Gentlemen, the issue as it relates to the police service, it is not a SSA, it is not a special branch issue, it is the police service. And the reason why we find ourselves in these difficulties at this time is because we have had a government whose position has been that they are not responsible for security. I believe the Minister of National Security is on record as having said that he is not responsible for security. And at that time, many of us in the society asked, if you are not, who is responsible for it? If by extension he was not responsible for it, I never expected or anticipated that the chairman of the National Security Council would claim responsibility for it. So in more ways than one, the country has been operating without security because there's simply no policy to guide the police, the Coast Guard, the Army, the cadets, you name it. There's been nobody in charge for a long time. And it is the reason why we find ourselves in the heartbreak situation we have it. I want to say to you that until we get good, serious, committed politicians in this country, people who understand that when the people vote for you and place you in office, they give you a responsibility. But it is really a burden of responsibility. And if you volunteer for it, you must accept it. I want to believe that Hines and Rowley and all these others at this time should not volunteer to go forward because they have failed to accept the responsibility of the job that they volunteered for. We are in a very difficult phase, and I think unless every citizen realizes at this time it is their responsibility to save this country from itself, we will not survive. I thank you for an excellent program.
Thank you very much, Cole, for your contribution. Do have a good day.
A lot I want to say.
I'm sorry, just forgive me. Caller from St. James, I still can't believe what you're saying about $38,000 for property in St. James.
Per month?
Per month, one bedroom, you know. So I'm wondering if they value it as residential or commercial.
Is it per year?
It doesn't even
that
matter.
still seems kind of hard.
It doesn't even matter if it's commercial. $38,000 is still.
So
what is really going on? Because it's residential property tax. It's
I know
for
like a two-bedroom apartment, you know, the rent of that apartment would be like, was at least at one point in time 6, maybe it might be 8 now. I'm not too sure, right? Again, these markets could change, right? And this is in the heart of St. James, but. I just want to point out too, first, with regards to the Minister of Finance's comments, the point is he made no actual justification as why it would be wrong for him to comment. So we are left to assume that he means, well, I can't be a hypocrite and disagree with myself, right? I just wanted to say that there. That's why what he said was so intriguing, to say the least.
Yeah,
James,
but bear in mind again, the Minister of Finance could appear. So I wonder what his property portfolio is, boy.
Right, because he just said one property.
That's residential property. What about the commercial properties?
We know about one property right down the road.
Right up the road from it.
Right.
Yeah.
We have St. James. I don't know if this is St. James back on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yes, a call back 38,000 rental value per year.
Per year, okay.
For the 1 bedroom, and
Okay.
the 3 bedroom is 40,000 rental value per year. So I have to work the taxes based on that, right? Minus how much and divide by 2%, whatever.
All right.
But what I'm saying, how are 1 bedroom and now adding on and now doing a renovation, yet extend the living room a little bit, and so on. So I will have to submit this. You think so?
Mm-hmm.
You don't think? Query this?
I don't know. The thing is, caller, I think people...
Actually, caller, if you said $36,000 a year, $38,000 a year in rental value, I could see why they're saying that in
For
St. James.
1 bedroom,
if that equates to just over $3,000 a month in St. James in particular.
Yeah, that actually might not be unreasonable.
A bit accurate, you know, caller.
You don't find it too high?
But I will be
We don't
honest
know what
with
your
you,
house is.
but
So
I
to be
don't
fair,
know
we
the
don't know.
property.
Yeah, we don't know
so
the
I
property.
It is in the midst of St. James, very near to Long Circular Mall.
Yeah, that's why.
Prime property.
That's exactly
That's the
why.
thing. That's the problem, caller.
Yeah.
This might be a case where the 1 bedroom rental might be reasonable. So and this is to note the first example that I could say.
I think what the caller was also suggesting,
right,
is that as compared to the 2 bedroom,
which
got I think 40,000 a month.
Yeah.
So that is probably where his argument lies as well. He says, I have a 1 bedroom, they sing 30,000 a year. Now I get it. The rent of that, fair enough, is a 1 bedroom. I hear you, caller, but he's saying, at the same time, how is it that 2 bedrooms is 40? I get what he's saying.
My problem is those places that pay more property tax, in theory, the local government will have more money. So in theory, they will be able to upkeep the infrastructure better. So in theory, your rental will go higher. That's one of the questions I have about property tax. Did they factor that in? Because rental values goes up when the neighborhood is well maintained and it's a nice neighborhood, not so? Right? So then, the more property tax I pay, the higher my rental value goes up, the more I have to pay.
What's a nice neighborhood in TNT now?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. So, back to, okay, with regards to interviews, I will speak for Keaton. Our doors are always open, right?
Yeah, Cole, I hear what you're saying about we should make ourselves unavailable. It's not that we're desperate for interviews, though.
Yeah, I mean...
But if ever we get the opportunity for the sake of reporting to you all, I am taking that interview, and that is why every time I get a request,
but we're not desperate for it.
Every time we get a request, well, could you please send us questions beforehand? I never send questions beforehand. I don't want that at all. I want an organic interview.
No, if it's a technical question, then maybe. But if they want to speak about, we need them to be prepared to have the answers. But so it's subjective. But if they want to prep the interview and give us some mama guy,
all right. One last caller for the morning. Good morning, caller. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm Gandhi again.
Yes.
With respect to the property tax, almost every residence, well, in the first phase we are covering residential properties. My question is about the location of the office because it affects all these units. We're talking about people from as far as Mascot, Manzanilla, Plumita Beach. The closest office is at Aruca. So that if a resident has to make a complaint from the Sangagandhi area, Manzanilla, Matplot, they have to journey to Aruca. In the case of Rio Claro, Guayari, and Manavet, and Beach, and certain parts of Liverpool and Rio Claro, they have to journey all the way to San Fernando. So, if it is a question where it affects all of us as residents, why is it in the first instance some feeling of understanding of the plight of us residents that we have to journey all this way to make a complaint, and this will have to be there will most likely be an ongoing exercise. So is it that part of the property tax cannot be used to establish an office which will give us greater accessibility in terms of where we reside, as opposed to the inconvenience of having to travel all these distances when it is an ongoing basis of this tax? Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you very much for your contribution.
I mean, the answer to that is we don't know, but it doesn't look good because they started the ball rolling without, I believe, the correct framework for local government bodies to collect property tax, and there's no tribunal. So what's the point of these of objecting when you don't have a tribunal to actually be the final part of the process there that they're supposed to be. But
Caller, I don't want to be unkind in any way, but you really think they care about them inconveniencing you? You really think that's a matter for, you think that's an issue for them that inconveniencing you? Caller, it is frustrating. It costs money to get to these offices. I understand your plight. But inconvenience is the least of their problem. In fact, if anything, if you don't pay your property tax or if you challenge your valuation, it's an inconvenience to them.
yes, and caller from Cascade, yes, I think there's no leadership in national security right now. Because like you said, the minister pointed out, government not responsible for national security. But where else is the leadership coming from? At least with McDonald Jacobs and Gary Griffith, we could say that the police commissioner provided some leadership. Yes, I'll even say McDonald Jacobs, compared to what we have now, provided some leadership. Compared to what we have now, Keaton, you have to admit it. You have to admit it, right? So what we have now, we have a void. The void is gigantic. This gigantic black hole, which is sucking in the lives of all of the murder victims because no one is really doing anything to give us any sort of direction with regards to our national security apparatus. Not one. The only reason why this pasta situation happened was because I think looking at it in a certain way, one could argue it was a potential threat to the autonomy of the state's monopoly of the security apparatus. That's all. That's all, right? Because at the end of the day, and you said the opposition might not even want to be in government. You've brought this point up. I think we have why caller from Cascade, your point about electing people who understand the assignment is important. Because right now it's almost as though we have a pseudo cabal where they are comfortable trading or swapping roles with each other because they know that no one else could get into the dance, right? At best, one will be opposition for a little while and then get back on top not too long after. And they're comfortable. Whoever's in opposition is more than comfortable being in opposition.
I actually am of the opinion that there quite possibly is a cabal right now. Because I don't think the opposition leader is capable of making decisions on her own. I don't think she makes half the decisions. She doesn't even write her speeches. She probably isn't even invested.
Not within a party, you know. I'm saying there's almost like an unspoken agreement between the two main parties of parliament.
It seems so as well. I can't give you room for that impression. Even I had that impression. However, I will also say that in particular, maybe people want Kamala Prasad-Visasa there still as political leader because it equates to them still having a political future. It equates to them still having a job. That's quite possible. And as it relates to, and the reason why I say that, and the simple reason why I say it is because the best thing for the PNM is for Kamala Prasad-Visasa to stay as opposition leader. Simple.
I'm sorry. My one thing though is I've reached a point now where I will definitively say that this research and analysis unit potential fiasco potential. I'll just say the potential of it. If it turns out to be true to a significant enough capacity, that is enough for me to say it doesn't matter how good you are, how upright, how trustworthy you are. This is a bottom line issue for me. Sure. Because you cannot have a security apparatus with no oversight. And this is where it doesn't matter how bad Kamala Prasad-Visasa is.
I hear you.
That's the alternative that might have to be taken.
I am not disagreeing with you. You're saying that might have to be taken. At the end of the day, let us see the opposition's response list. Let us see the strength of the opposition. Let us see how much they go after these issues. Not just commenting on it today or tonight on a platform, but also long term. There are so many challenges surrounding this government. There's so many issues surrounding this government that has just been kept down low, have been kept quiet. Further to this, and I need you to bear this in mind as well, there are so many investigations taking place for members of parliament and government ministers. But on the opposition side, don't they have to stay in their lane as well and stay in their place? Aren't there question marks and invest? So that's what I'm saying. So I get what you're saying. I understand that, you know. I understand and I get what you're saying. But at the end of the day, it might not really matter because is the opposition strong enough now to really go after these issues?
I normally disagree with this premise, But things are so potentially bad with the national security apparatus that I'm going to go there and simply say that it's not about voting the UNC in office. It is literally all about voting the PNM out of office if the allegations or the implications of the RAU not having any amount of accountability to keep them in line, right, is proven to be true.
We'll put it this way. One,
right?
Is proven to be true. Good luck with that. Two, the voting habits and the voting patterns.
Proven or the implications are enough.
The voting habits and the voting patterns tend to say that, as they say in Trinidad, a government is not necessarily voted in, more so a government is voting
Which
out.
I usually disagree with.
And they say that because with declining, voter turnout and all this sort of stuff. I get that, right? But good luck as for what you're saying. Because you're saying this is the bottom line. There's so many question marks surrounding this government. So many question marks. The Prime Minister, by all means, is unpopular, right? Is unpopular. And I'm making that comment right now. But yet, somehow or the other, an unpopular Prime Minister has that strength and that pull as compared to
the opposition leader. He is more popular than the opposition. Right? Once you start saying the opportunity for a unit to be used politically, for intelligence unit to be used politically.
And by the way, it's interesting too because Kirk May, who had a release yesterday, and Anita Haynes had an interview on another television station.
Yeah.
And Kirk May, whose response to that is a PNM station. As far as I'm concerned, by the comments that I'm making on this platform this morning, does that make me a PNM? Does that make Talking Point a PNM? Does that make WSN a PNM?
Because we just criticized the hell out of the government.
So
where UNC station now?
Put it this way, Sean. They will never see past their paycheck. They will never see past their paycheck.
All right, we'll wait over time. So all I'll say is this, again, as pessimistic as I might seem, we are still here because we still believe in TNT. Our allegiance is to the Republic. We just have to do our part and plug away at this problem one step at a time. We can't just be complacent and just watch what happens.
Caller from Grandy, I haven't left Trinidad and Tobago as yet. Sometimes I wonder if my future is really here. But then and again, I'm probably one of the individuals, such as Sean Michael Small, who can hopefully lead to a better future, who can hopefully see a better future for TNT. And it might not happen in my time, but if we can set a platform now for future generations to come, ladies and gentlemen, today is a good day to have a good day. And a scorcher that is. We will see you very soon. Bye-bye.
WESN.
The home of Caribbean content is growing and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Before we even start this repatriation and reintegration process, we've already failed, or are we doomed to fail?
You've got to invest in the institutions that you've established to carry out those sorts of core functions.
We now get into the regional updates to give you an understanding of what's happening across our neighboring islands.
We have available a number of